Hello everyone and welcome to The Quarantine. I'm your host Wolf, and today we're going to take a look at Elite Dangerous, developed and published by Frontier Developments. As I mentioned with my Starpoint Gemini 2 review, I'm a sucker for space sims and for sandbox games, so right out of the gates this game was already right up my alley. Elite Dangerous is a sequel to Frontier's First Encounters from 1995 and is the third game in the Elite series. It's an MMO-ish style space adventure slash simulator set in a 1-to-1 scale simulation of the Milky Way. Player interaction is somewhat limited, and most of the time it feels like you're playing alone. They are adding wing support and have been updating player interaction systems somewhat regularly, but it still feels like an online-only single-player game. The online-only restriction is due to the updating events in the commodity market that's based on the player's actions. I would have liked to have had an offline option for, say, when I'm playing on my laptop and I don't readily have an internet connection. That way I could still play Elite Dangerous. But what are you going to do? The game, however, is completely open, non-story driven adventure with 400 billion star systems that you get to explore. You choose your own level of involvement in the game world, and your own level of fun for that matter, whether it be bounty hunting, running faction missions, trading, mining, or exploring. You want to smuggle illegal drugs to a station for massive profit? Go for it. You tell your own story and forge your own path in this game. The game is going to have you flying around at first with little to no direction. It has a few tutorials to get you kinda on your feet well enough, and then it tosses you into space with a shitty sidewinder that's alone to you, and you just have to kind of figure out the rest. It's not hard, though finding, for example, profitable trade routes to do really early on with the crappy sidewinder is a real pain in the ass sometimes. Generally, most people just start off bounty hunting because it's by far the easiest thing to get into. Once you figure out what you're doing, however, it feels great. The game makes space feel like space, big and lonely and mostly empty. This may not be what everyone's looking for, especially if you're looking for an action packed game. That said, dogfights and ship to ship battles, even right now, are really satisfying. The game, like I said, does feel a bit empty. Not scale wise, but stuff to do. From the dev blogs, however, they released the game basically bare bones and they're going to continue to add to it and we can see it progress. As of now, though, there is still quite a bit of fun to have. I've easily logged 100 hours into ED, and at this point, I still plan on exploring. I just recently got an ASP to do so. I'm not going to get into the comparison between Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous, as a lot of people seem to be doing, as honestly they both to me seem to be different games. One's very narrative driven and is a lot smaller, whereas this is very big and expansive and open ended. And I say, why not just get both? That is, if Star Citizen ever eventually comes out. Elite Dangerous, however, does have its share of annoyances, so be warned. For example, I was bounty hunting for a while, and it was pretty enjoyable. Many times I'd be in my Eagle and outmaneuvering anything I come across and laying waste to ships a lot of the time. And one stray round I used kinetic autocannons, basically, and it would accidentally hit a local police officer. I wouldn't even do damage to his shields, is how little damage it would do, but somehow that would warrant a 200 credit, what I thought at the time to be a fine. And I'm cool with that. I should have been a little bit more careful. But apparently it's a bounty, and all police immediately stop shooting at the guy that's worth 30,000 points and immediately target you for death. It is super annoying. Now, I've lost so many fucking credits because of this. Easily a million credits worth. And it got to the point where I had to stop bounty hunting because I was just getting really angry because of this. While fighting, the local police will be off screen, to your port or starboard side, slightly behind you, and then suddenly boost up in front of you and strafe in front of your crosshairs, practically forcing you to hit them unless you anticipated them doing that and stop firing beforehand. And when you die, you're going to lose all unclaimed bounties. Then you have to rebuy your ship and everything on it, albeit at 10% its cost, but it's still a cost you shouldn't have had to put forth. It gets really annoying. Dying in the game isn't too bad. If you die and you are flying any ship other than the starting loner ship, you can pay 10% of the cost of the ship, and then 10% for each module and weapon installed to get it all back. If you don't have the money, however, at the time that you died, you're screwed and you lose your chance. You have to wind up rebuying it at full cost later on down the road, and you're forced to take the crappy loner Sidewinder. I really would have liked the option to say respawn in another ship that you have purchased and docked at a different station. It really sucks if, say, you don't have the money and you wind up dying and don't have the money to rebuy your ship, and then have to get the crappy Sidewinder. And even though you have, say, a hauler halfway across the galaxy, or a Cobra halfway across the galaxy, and now you have the crappiest ship in the game, and you gotta figure out how to get halfway across the galaxy to go get the ship you already own. I wouldn't have mind resetting credit value to 0, if you don't have the money to rebuy your ship, take all of my money, and let me just get into one of my ships I already own, and, teleport me halfway across the galaxy. I would have loved that. The game also has module destruction. If you don't want somebody, say, warping away, you can either manually target the part if you know where it's located on that ship, because each ship has all their modules located in different spots, or you can use the sub-target menu, and your automatic tracker will compensate for it, so you will hit whatever module you're trying to hit at the time. Read somewhere, whether it's true or not, I'm not 100% sure, but as I stated earlier, it's a fairly accurate model of the Milky Way. So things that we know exist in the galaxy apparently are modeled in the game, and they update accordingly as new things are discovered. I just recently got to the point where I can afford an ASP and had it kitted out for exploration, so I'm heading for some of them now, actually, to verify this. The audio of Elite Dangerous bothered the hell out of me at first. Being a space game, the fact that after I kill somebody, I can hear their ship explode, or I hear the rounds whiz by my ship, is really annoying at first, until I actually took the time and looked into why. Apparently it tells you in the tutorial. Your canopy emulates the sound for better situational awareness. Is it a cop-out reason? Yeah, sure. But honestly, ask yourself, would you really want to play a game that it was dead quiet all the time except for the hum of your engines or the rattle of your weapons or whatever? I mean, at least they give a valid reason of why there's sound in space. After I understood that, the audio is outstanding. Everything sounds like it should. Everything to the tinks of rounds hitting the hardened plates on your ship just ricochet off, the sounds of your FSD drive powering up, and little things rattling in your ship as it does so, as you frame shift across space at unimaginable speeds, all the way up to just the announcements that you hear inside stations, where you're landing. Never once, after I found out, of course, about the emulation, did I feel that the sounds were out of place. Everything fits, and it adds a lot of feel and atmosphere to the game. The controls work perfectly as well. I don't really have any complaints. Every button can be rebound to whatever you like. The default controls suck. I'll just put that out right now. It plays very well with mouse and keyboard, and I guess well enough with a controller. I play with mouse and keyboard. I think I used the controller for like 5 minutes. Even with the controller, you can rebind all of the controls, but you still need a lot of the keys mapped to a keyboard. Your less used ones like landing gear or drop all cargo, stuff like that. A friend of mine just recently purchased a flight stick, and he absolutely loves the game. It also supports the Oculus Rift, and so for maximum immersions, he plans on getting one of those as well. That said, the ships do tend to control like jet planes most of the time. And again, the game compensated for this with navigational thrusters because humans are used to the way jet planes actually maneuver. And I'm cool with that. You can, however, turn off the flight assist and basic Newtonian physics kick in, allowing, for insane stunts like the cliche action stunt where the ship's flying in one direction, flips upside down, without any thrusters that would slow it down, and is now facing the guy chasing them, and he just firing into the front of their canopy. You can pull off stunts like that by turning off the flight assist, which is cool. It allows some really interesting maneuverability. Visually, Elite Dangerous is incredible down to the smallest details. I honestly cannot think of a single negative thing to put in this category. I mean, you can see the hard points tracking a target. Me and a friend of mine got online, and he was watching my landing gear actually deploy. He was dropping off some cargo for me to pick up, and he could see my cargo scoop actually lower, and as I slowly moved towards the cargo, it would hit the bottom of the cargo scoop and slowly roll up, and he could see it roll into my cargo bay, and my cargo scoop would then close immediately afterwards. The small little details, I haven't found anything in the game that doesn't look incredible. You can look down into your lap and see your guys squeeze the trigger. He's moving his arm on the throttle. He can move. You can see him moving the sticks. It's just all of it is outstanding. The atmospheres look incredible as well. Flying through space where the sun is on the other side of a planet and you can see just the glow across its atmosphere. It looks incredible. That said, however, I do hate the designs of a lot of the ships. They all have an aerodynamic look to them, save for a few. And, I mean, in space it's irrelevant. Maybe they did it for when they eventually add planetfall to it, allowing you to bring the ships into the atmosphere. Possibly. I don't like how they look aerodynamic when they're spaceships, and it drives me crazy. Hell, even the rings on planets, as you warp to them, they look like, solid rendered things, but the closer you get to them, you start to notice they're actually modeled exactly as they are. They're millions and millions of little small rocks and dust particles, all of which you can actually mine, and they're also really good places for hunting bandits and people who are wanted and bounties and whatnot. But as you warp in closer, the rings are actually what they should be. Hell, black holes are even modeled in the game, and they're modeled as accurately as possible given the scientific data that we actually have on them. On top of that, anomalies like that are rare, as they are in the real world. You may notice from some of the gameplay footage that the game will lock up for like a half a second or a quarter of a second for every once in a while. I don't know if that's my computer, it has been acting up recently, or if it's the game, so I just want to kind of make a mention of that. I really can't say enough about Elite Dangerous, and I know my fanboyism is showing, but the game is great, and it appears so far to only be getting better as they continue to update it. That's not to say, again, that it doesn't have its flaws. With it being somewhat bare bones at the moment, really boring at times, only like 15 different ships at the moment, half of which are terrible. Knowing bounty hunting, the AI is downright retarded sometimes. Running away from a fight is really easy. So if you're trying to kill somebody, they can get away somewhat easily. No offline mode. I mean, that's just to name a few. But overall, the good definitely outweighed the bad, and that holds more and more true as they update the game more and more. There really is a ton to this game already, and this video could easily be 2 hours long if I went over every little thing, and I'm sure there are big things that I'm missing or forgetting to talk about. And according to the forums and the wiki, they plan on updating a shit ton of things like planetfall, station exploration, ship exploration, first-person combat, hostile boarding, multi-crew ships, spacewalking, and that's just to name a few things. Overall, would I recommend Elite Dangerous? If you enjoy space games and like the feel that space is big and empty, then yes. If watching this video and hearing this, you're not sure, maybe wait for some updates, because I'll be the first to say the hefty $60 price tag, I'll admit, is pretty steep right now. But I've paid as much for games and haven't played nearly as much of them, and I'm looking at you, X Rebirth. I have logged easily over 100 hours into Elite Dangerous, and I continue to log more now that I get to actually do what I wanted to do from the beginning and explore. I eagerly await future updates. After I upload this review, I totally intend on putting on some Star Trek and exploring the cosmos. And sorry guys for the almost 2 months between reviews, and thanks for everybody for being patient. Between the holidays, me getting sick, and honestly no games that have really interested me in the past little while, I mean, it's taken a while for me to find something. And then I got Elite Dangerous, and that's pretty much kept me busy for about the past month straight. I've also recently gotten into board gaming, with my recent additions being Eldritch Horror, Mage Wars, BattleCon Devastation of Endines, and Eclipse, just to name a few. And I was debating on adding a playlist or something for, maybe reviewing them as well, or maybe playing a game and uploading it that way. For example, like Mage Wars is really complicated. Awesome game, but really complex. And I read the rulebook and it didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, it did, but only basic. And then while trading in Elite Dangerous, I actually watched a few reviews, tutorials, and gameplay footage, and I totally get how to play now, even though I haven't actually gotten to play a game yet. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet, so if you'd like to leave a comment of what you'd prefer to see, I mean, if you'd rather me just keep the channel as a video game review or what, just leave a comment. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you could like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time in the quarantine.